With no further ado, I'd like to bring up one of America's great treasures to speak on his world of forgiveness, Kevin Kling.
I'll borrow the plant stand. Now I'll get blamed for it, though. I've been collecting ideas as these have gone on. One of the things I was thinking of is resentment, the word resentment. I remember I was working with the Guthrie touring a show, and I was up in Hibbing, Minnesota. It was February, and they had a huge sign out in front of Hibbing with this lighted sign that said, "The Guthrie Theater presents Kevin Kling," but a wind had blown the P away, so it said, "The Guthrie Theater resents Kevin Kling." I knew it. So part of this is just random thoughts. Dean called me up and I just threw a bunch of thoughts of forgiveness. One of the first things that happened was every day I'm reminded I got in an accident 12 years ago, a motorcycle accident, and a guy hit me, and people kept coming up and going, "Aren't you mad at that guy? Don't you hate that guy? Do you want something to happen to that guy?" And I'd say, no. And they'd say, "Why? Aren't you upset?" And I'd say, "No. I didn't even have to forgive him. I forgave him even before I met him because he didn't do it on purpose." And that was always in my mind. I even, this sounds bad, but I even looked for a reason to not like the guy, and I couldn't find it. And it reminded me of the key to me for forgiveness. Forgiveness is when you aren't in the past or the future. You're not stuck in the regrets of the past or the anxiety of the future. You're sitting right in the middle of the path. It's one of my favorite, when you mentioned the Ojibwe, it's one of my favorite things about the Ojibwe language. It's 87% verbs. And so something never is what it was or what it did, it's what it's doing. It's a living language. And you mentioned the Bible, and one of my favorite stories is Moses, and he's talking to the burning bush. And one of the stories about the burning bush, I knew a woman who directly translated from the Hebrew, and God said, when God said, "I am what I am," the direct translation is more accurately, "I am what I need to be." In other words, a living God, a God that's a verb, not a God that's a noun of the past or stuck in the future. And so when it comes to forgiveness for me, the key is that we're trying not to ride one of those. We're trying to ride down the middle and be alive and be awake. And then you don't even need to forgive. John O'Donohue, the Celtic scholar, said that we have an internal landscape and an external landscape. Our internal landscape is how we perceive ourselves. Our external landscape is how we perceive and are perceived by others. And they can be very, very different. You know this if you have a disability. The way you are perceived and the way you perceive yourself is very different. And for me, forgiveness in that case means you need to build a bridge. You need to build a bridge on the way you feel about yourself and the way the world is that isn't built for you. And so that, to me, is a form of forgiveness as well. To forgive comes from the words for and give, which implies a gift, something that's handed over with care. And I love that thought about it, that it actually is a gift. And so there's a responsibility that comes with it. I think that forgiveness starts with recognition, that idea that I see you in me. When I see myself in you, then I'm going to immediately start to forgive. I'm going to start to recognize you. A while back, I saw this amazing poetry reading by Robert Bly. And he got to the end of this poem, and everyone went, "Oh," like, "Whoa." And he stops and he goes, "Did you get what that meant?" And everyone went, "No." "No, we don't know." And he goes, "'Cause I don't either." He goes, "I wrote this hoping I would find out what this means. I wrote this reaching beyond my grasp." And we all went, yeah, but we almost get it. He goes, "I almost get it too." He goes, "One of these days we're going to get it." And for me, there's some things in my life in terms of forgiveness that are still outside of my grasp, that I'm still reaching for, that like that Robert Bly poem, one day I'll reach. I can see it. I can see that forgiveness, but I'm just not there yet. But I'm living in the hopes that in this lifetime I will reach that forgiveness. I recently met a guy who did a TED Talk. I was on a plane. This guy sits down, Brandon, his name was. And I mean, this was last weekend, and it just fits so well with this. He sat down next to me, and I was talking to him, and he went to Malaysia, he told me. Oh, first of all, he teaches high school, and he gave this assignment where he said, pick a hero, pick a hero. I want you all to pick a hero. And this girl goes, there's no heroes. There's no heroes anymore today. I mean, there's always something they find out about somebody. There just isn't any more heroes. So he goes, okay, look, I'm going to tell you a story, and you tell me if you don't think there's heroes. So he says he was in Malaysia. He's telling his student, I was in Malaysia, and I met this family of this girl who was going to get on the bus. She was 20 years old. And he said, we really hit it off. We had such a good time with the family. It was like a big going away party and everything. And I said, don't worry, I'll take care of her. It's going to be great. And everybody was so happy and friendly. And they got on the bus, and the girl immediately threw up all over him. And he goes, okay, all right, this is fine. And then she ate a whole bunch of food and did it again. And he said, this is starting to seem like it's on purpose. And as the trip went on, it went worse and worse. She was so mean to him. Everything. She just didn't want anything to do with him. She was really cruel, and she didn't even say, I'm sorry for what she did. And they stopped at this stop, and she went in, and she ordered more food. And he's saying, this is the last thing she needs. She got this big octopus. Well, they were in this place in Malaysia, and she's sitting there with this big octopus, and a monkey drops from the ceiling, he said, and started fighting her for the octopus. And so they're like struggling for this octopus. And everyone's going, go help her, go help her. He goes, what do you mean, go help your wife? They said, that's not my wife. I don't even know this woman. And they said, you gotta help your wife. So he goes, oh, good. And so he goes over, and he fights the monkey, and he finally ends up getting the monkey off the octopus and giving it to her. And she doesn't even say thanks. He gets on the thing, and it was horrible. He really did save her. This monkey was really going to lay into her. And so he really did save her. And he sat down and he said, there, okay, there. As much as what she's done to me, I did that. And he said he felt really, really good about himself. And he'd really saved this young woman. And he felt great. And so he told that to that girl. And he says, now don't you think there's heroes in this world? And his student said, yes, there are. And so she turned in her paper, and he got her paper, and he started to read, and she said, there is a hero in this world. She's a woman in Malaysia who taught my teacher how to be a better man. And I kind of think that's the way it is with forgiveness. There's people all around us helping us be better people. And all we have to do is recognize it, or at least like Robert Bly, know it's just outside of our grasp. Thank you.